Well, greetings, fellow zombies. Are we alive yet? Are we awake yet? It's only 6:37 at night Pacific Standard Time. Still the second, or daylight savings time, if you want to look at it that way. And it's April 2nd, 2024. I'm responding to Beau with the fifth column. Hello, Justin. What's going on? El Weaver, John C. of Roseman, California, sends his mellow greetings. Anyway, excuse me. The attack of the killer dinner is affecting a great deal. Well, some would something about heroes and wars. We look for heroes because we want to feel empowered and we want to feel like we have somebody to look up to. One thing I discovered about heroes, sometimes they have a tendency of falling flat on their face. Only because the one thing that they are is human. Case in point, several of them slaughtered because of an NGO group who wanted to help humanity now has to pull back for a period because it's too dangerous for them to operate, especially when it's clear-cut annihilation. And Israel is getting their ass kicked on this one. I I don't get it with Netanyahu in his major malfunction. I know he wanted to do a reaction, but was it of an overreaction when he went into Gaza and started ripping the place apart? He looked at an opportunity and he got it. But I'm not defending Hamas for their choice of insanity. Nor am I supporting the schmucks who put Hamas up to the task in the first place. We got new players in the game playing a very deadly World War setting here. That's what has me worried about. Biden may have put some faith and trust and stock in NGOs to a point. Natural disasters are one thing, and in war zones, there is a tendency of losing people in the left and right. And I do support the courage of the NGOs to try to make a difference in one part of the world or another. Sometimes you have to take the risk, but sometimes you have to measure how much and what's the risk factors. It's one thing when you go into a country and you're trying to support it, and whether or not if the NGOs are welcomed by the government, and if they are, fine. NGOs try to find a way beyond the political routes that our government systems use in order to establish their own goals of assisting people. And when one of those endeavors happen to suffer a major setback, yeah, they're going to have to pull back and make a reassessment on this one. Is it still worth it? Yeah, because there's still a lot of suffering. But then again, just how much are they willing to commit themselves again for this? It's still an all volunteer system. But if they're going to be finding the courage to go back in there again, they are heroes. But even if they had pulled back, at least they made the attempt, and I still call them heroes. So I don't say that there are no heroes in this situation over here. They're definitely not the political ones, that's for damn sure. And in regards to President Biden and his situation regarding Israel, this is one mess that's going to be treaded carefully on, because it does reverberate back to the citizens of this country, the United States. People who know people across the waters, who have relatives and friends and family who had either visited or immigrated over here, but they still have connections. And I'm not saying which particular portion of the country or which portion of the people. I'm not saying that. And there are repercussions happening. There's no clear-cut solution on this one if anybody else is looking forward towards it. I kept saying history, history, history left and right. Studied the problems a hell of a long time, but you also have to look at the current dynamics at play. If you have a political arm that's hell bent on suppression or even a partial genocidal action, call one particular group democracy and yet deny democracy, and then they try to play the victim even though part of them had become the victim. But the real victims are the kidnapped people. I'm not quite sure if Gaza was total victims, but putting the civilians into the crosshairs. If this is what Hamas wanted, I would be tempted to say that they are pure evil, but no, they are raised under extreme circumstances. Israel may have been a pinnacle, or tried to be the pinnacle of democracy, gone nuts with civil wars plagued all over the place. Maybe at one time it was supposed to be, garden spot, but comparing to what the Middle East in that region was throughout the centuries, throughout the millenniums, what garden spot? I don't see it. Temporary ceasefires may be lasting for a few years to decades, maybe a century if you're lucky. And then other government systems come in and then oil breaks loose, or a lot of disagreements, major disagreements concerning about not just government policy but religion and about cultures and stuff. So do I hold it? Well, what I consider it is basically a powder keg that never ceased to be a powder keg. If I would do some kind of geologic metaphor in this one, look at a volcanic island building itself up from the ocean depths into an island where life temporarily lives and tries to be paradise and beautiful for a long period of time for a lot of people, but also under the threat of annihilation. Would the Middle East, particularly the region where the countries lie next to the Mediterranean Sea, would they be considered similar to a geologic metaphor? What concerns me at this point, the ones pulling the strings regarding the Hamas attack, if there's no way of negotiations at this point, we are looking at famine, we are looking at genocide, we are looking at catastrophe after catastrophe in this one. Not political in nature, human in nature. There's no heroes because there's no shining example of somebody trying to do one good thing. Everything else got muddled. And they're all praying for a miracle from God on this one, thinking that God alone is going to solve this one. So he's got people on the ground trying to work it. And the solution may take a long time. possibility we may lose the hostages in the process. And I'll still rack up the tension even further. Does it merit genocide of a people? We got Iran threatening to wipe out Israel, but they're always doing that. But since they got their own homeland attacked, and they think it's Israel doing it, even though they had a terrorist group coming on there that wasn't Israeli. But they're not going to look at that. They're still going to look at Israel to be the bad guy here. So they still want to wipe them off. Hezbollah would love to do the same damn thing. I know they would. And Hamas, if they're scattered about, they'd still love to do that. A war-torn region. I wouldn't be surprised if it was going to be part of a nuclear hell. It was bad enough when I started hearing about this one loudmouth congressman who goes over to Uganda, makes his remarks about people should be killed or hung or something like that concerning about one type of group, comes over to the States, and then talks in a town hall meeting about Israel should suffer the fate like Nagasaki and Hiroshima. Without even realizing what the hell he's saying at this point over here. No matter how many times he tries to walk it back, there's no way of walking that back. A U.S. representative wants extermination and death. Does every other nut job in the Congress also feel the same damn way? Israel be wiped off from the face of the earth? And one nuclear firestorm? And they're not seeing the repercussions on this damn shit? We're worried about heroes that we can look up to. I'm looking at total villains at this point. I'm not looking at any heroes. Except for the people who are trying to force a change in the country that should have been changed a long time ago. And maybe tried to do the two-party state solution, if it was ever possible, or potentially incredible, or potentially workable. Potentially. And the problem is, do we have the time for it or the luxury? There is none. And what if they happen to dig up all Gaza and haven't found all the bodies yet, living or dead? How's that going to slate? How is that going to soothe and satisfy? How is that going to placate those who have been having people kidnapped? Do we now demand a global retribution? Is this the focal point of blasting the people off the face of the earth? And frying us up in a nuclear firestorm because of this bullshit? I mean, hell, it was bad enough in World War II when we had lunatics out there threatening to do the same damn shit, and yet one country develops it, by the help of other scientists, a way to fry people and radiate a country for generations to come. Not to mention lines. The lineages that actually survived through that, with potential diseases down the road, genetically, captured and then programmed, and then generations die off left and right. How's that for an extermination of a people? Is that how we're going to be looking at ourselves these days? Is that how we're supposed to look at ourselves? People will be freaking out over a country having more issues than what we have over here. But the issues we have in the United States, do we have anybody marching every single day for them? Yep. But we're going to go crazy over Israel and its issues. Yep. We're going to have people wanting to toss out of the people because they just don't like anybody. So basically, I think things are about as normal or commonly accepted as they could possibly be. So it's normal to have slaughter in a country, slaughter in other countries, just basically everybody slaughtering each other. So it's perfectly normal. I think what would get our goat and our attention is if we did have something from the cosmos either trying to kill us or scare the hell out of us with its presence. Oh, we'd freak out concerning about eclipses like crazy. Oh, we must see a shadow on the earth because the moon's going to be in a situation right by the sun and we're going to see this. Isn't this wonderful? Every several years we'll get one or two. We'll get partial eclipses left and right. Yeah, it's an astronomical event. I accept it as a common theme in Earth's history. So I'm not wooed. We have people out there trying to take advantage one way or another of each other. They even try to promote religion all the time. This religion's better. We're good and peaceful, but we'll kill you in the process if you don't cooperate with us. See, I'm a Christian nationalist at this point over here, and I believe that we love people and God loves us, but God doesn't love you because we are the right hand of God and we're going to slaughter your ass. All in the name of Jesus at this point over here. Don't you understand that? All I can say is this point is, oy vey. Oy vey. How did we ever get in this situation in the first place? I haven't a clue. Not a damn one. I can talk about the minutiae or the grandiose problems that we have. I can only imagine what the headache guy is feeling right now, shaking his head at humanity. If there's supposed to be potential, we ain't showing it. Oh, we're showing potential in how to kill each other left and right now to be mercilessly satisfied with it. We want to murder. We want to be satisfied with it. We're trying to be as peaceful as our religion tells us to be by committing slaughter all over the place. We want to show Christian nationalism. There's no place on earth to run to get away from the insanity because we're already conflicted with it. I'm going to be surprised in the next 50 years if this planet actually survives. I may not live long enough for that one. If I did, I don't know, maybe I'd be blessed or cursed. Probably cursed. And seeing the world tear itself apart and still trying to call itself normal. Yeah, that's a nice grizzling thought.